a racist manner. It just, no one has convinced me of a legitimate argument from the other side yet. I'm still waiting to see if somebody does. Let's go to Ramona calling from Tennessee. Hi, Ramona. Welcome. You're on AFA Today with Kevin McCullough. So glad you're here.
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
My issue is I have a 7-year-old who is in the public school system. You're going to tell the federal government is going to tell me that I have no right to question whether the teacher in that classroom has been convicted of molesting another child?
That's how well thought through these guidelines are, Ramona. I mean, that's the real problem here.
Absolutely no sense. They're doing with this just exactly what they have done with everything else. The federal government wants their hands in everything. Our children cannot take their Bibles to school. They're not allowed to pray in school. And now most of the schools are getting to where they're not allowed to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Maybe if we went back to the Constitution, which is written for the people, by the people, and of the people, and get back to the background of what this country was founded on, maybe we wouldn't have so many problems.
Ramona, I could not have said it any better myself, and I think you embodied a lot of the passion that everybody is expressing today. 888-589-8840. Let's go to Molly, who's called us from Ohio. Molly, you're up next on AFA Today. Glad you're here.
Thank you. I have something to say from a little different point of view.
Absolutely.
Things used to be very black and white to me. I was raised in a very small town, raised my kids in a very small town, and everybody knew everybody's business, and, if anybody got in trouble, it was horrible. Well, in March, my view changed when I had probably 8 to 10 sheriffs at my door to arrest my son. My son has never been in trouble in his life. He was in the gifted program in school. He went to Iraq, came home a decorated hero, but a very different young man mentally. Very different. What he did involved viewing of minors, shock of my life. Of course, we're going through the process right now. We've got an attorney, and we just got him into counseling through the VA, which we had been trying to do for 2 years, and he was put on a waiting list until this happened.
Okay.
Now, do I want this label to follow my son once they get his mind straightened out from what he saw over there? Doors are slamming on him right now. The only job he can find is in a restaurant. So, I did 21 years of child care. I'm very protective of children. But again, I look at this, and this is not my son. So do I think...
But Molly, in fairness, and let me just ask you to be real gut level honest here. In fairness, is your son's issue that he's struggling with and that he's now attempting to get straightened out, is that the problem or the risk or the importance of what a business owner should be forced by law to worry about? See, because I believe a couple of things about a free market, and one of them is that, for one thing, I don't think just because you give business owners the right to run criminal background checks means that all of them will, and there will probably be some who are reformed criminals themselves who are going to have a passionate heart for extending a second chance to people in a very compassionate way. What I'm against is the government saying to all business owners, you are not allowed under any circumstances to run the criminal background check. Right. Furthermore, if your son is able to get a job at a restaurant initially and develop a record of success and performance in a way that is helpful, he's not at the end of his road. There's still a lot of life left for him. And so to seize the opportunities that he does have as he continues to reform himself and redeem his mind, I believe that there will be greater opportunities as he proves himself faithful in the days to come. But do you, and I repeat my question, do you honestly believe that you want the government telling a business that under no circumstance can you run a person's criminal record?
No, I'm against the government in a lot of ways. No, I don't. But like I said, I see things very different from most callers because I have a son that this will very possibly hurt, and a son that's never had an ounce of problems in his life until he went to Iraq. So
and any mother that would be in your circumstance would feel exactly the same amount of compassion and worry, and I feel that with you, Molly. I have 3 sons, and 2 of them are not old enough to join the military yet, but they may want to at some point in time, and I'll have those same concerns and issues and worries that everybody else does. I just know this. I know that, number one, with God, no one is beyond redemption. I know that, 2, as your son gets the help he needs and he's able to put one foot forward in front of the other in a positive way in his life, that more opportunities are going to come his way. And so I would encourage you to help him focus on that and not on the fairness or, quote, unfairness of whether a company wishes to hire former criminals or not. Because I don't think at the end of the day, I don't think any of us are the worst, that none of us should have our story defined by the worst moments of who we are, and none of us should have our stories defined by the best moments of who we are. In reality, Molly, we're all sinners, fallen, desperate need of God. I'm no different than your son. Our other listeners are no different than your son. We've all struggled in different ways. We've all had different sins that raised up and bit us in ways that we weren't expecting, and we contributed in many times to our own downfall. At the end of the day, that's not the end of the story. The cross is real. Jesus is risen. There is new life, and there is new hope. And as people surrender to that, it is my belief that he's capable of redeeming anyone and anybody from any circumstance. And so, Molly, I'm going to put you and your son's name on my prayer list, and I'm going to continue to pray for you, and I'm going to look and hope for good things in the days to come. Sorry to hear about that. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Let's talk to Kevin in Arkansas next. Hi, Kevin. You're on with Kevin McCullough on AFA Today. Glad you're here.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I just started listening to your station about 6 months ago. I really enjoy it. I'm in the medical field, and I was wondering if this was also part of that because, they background check us, fingerprint us, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. No, I've been told that there's some whole areas of employment that everyone that goes to work in any of those fields has to be submitted to these checks. And so how the federal government's saying, well, it's okay for this business, but it's not okay for that one, and to have that kind of double standard on stuff, it seems to me to be highly hypocritical. But there's a lot that this administration has delved into in recent days that seems to be highly hypocritical. And I've written a piece on onenewsnow.com that I'd really appreciate if you go take a look at. It is provocatively titled, and that's what my editor at One News Now said. He said it seemed edgy, but it's not. It's not really intended to be edgy. It's intended to just observe what's going on and to say what I believe the problem is, and then I think I point the way to a solution in the same piece. But it's titled "Why American Racism is Impossible to Defeat," and what it really means is at this present time. Part of this story that we've been talking about this hour, I think, demonstrates why this idea of American racism is impossible to defeat, because you have people that are willfully intentional about keeping the issue of race alive, whether there's any truth to what they're saying or not, whether there's any truth to whether or not this policy abjectly affects incarcerated African-American men or not. They're saying no more criminal background checks. Well, that puts everybody else in society at risk, including a lot of other African Americans and Latinos and Asians and Jewish people, and yes, white folks too. There's a lot of people that are put at risk if you say we're not going to have any standards. Let me ask you this: should the federal government be able to tell states to tell their businesses that you can't hire people who can't read or do math? I'm running a grocery store chain. That doesn't matter. You can't hire anybody that can't do math. I'm sorry. What about inventory and cashiering? You got to have a lot of math skills to do all that stuff. Nope. It would be discrimination. Well, how do you get away from that observation? If you start telling the states that they have to tell businesses who they can and can't hire, I think you've got the federal government going into places that I'm quite certain the Founding Fathers never envisioned them being in. Love to know more of your thoughts on this. My email address is kmcradio@gmail.com. You can also comment on Facebook, afatoday.com. And coming up tonight on the Kevin McCullough Show on many of these same stations, you will have much more of the news of the day, including a very good news story about a professional golfer who made a very admirable choice yesterday. If you want to understand that story and why it's important, make sure you catch the Kevin McCullough Show later today. Like I said, on many of these stations and in the overnight hours on all of these stations. You can also go online and listen at afr.net. Absolutely free every single day. Kevin McCullough, thank you for being here. We'll see you on the Tuesday edition of AFA Today. Now, it's time for that gray fox to make his way to the microphone. Brian Fisher, Focal Point, next here on AFR Talk.